In the last 30 minutes, the European Union countries has approved the bloc's first countermeasures against President Trump's tariffs, joining China and Canada in pushing back. The European Union is set to impose extra duties, mostly of 25%, on a range of U.S. imports in response specifically to the U.S. metals tariffs. It's still assessing how to respond to the car and border levies and the broader levies that the countries face. Now, these new tariffs will take effect from the 15th of April. Let's hear now from David Hennig of the European Centre for International Political Economy. He's been following developments closely in Brussels. David, what can you tell us about the countermeasures?
Well, these are measures, as you say, against the steel and aluminium tariffs. So this is going back a couple of tariffs ago. And these are measures, actually, it's first part of it is reviving measures that were in place during Trump's first term. And then there are some extra measures to come in place, which are because the steel and aluminium tariffs go further this time round. The EU is still considering the actions it will take against the newer tariffs, those that came on automotive and the general tariff of 20%. There's a little bit of uncertainty here. Unlike, I think, in China, there's not a desire in Brussels to escalate this trade war beyond a certain point. There's worry about the potential damage to the EU's own economy from doing that.
But David, we are hearing President Donald Trump digging in, posting on social media just now, "Be cool, everything will work out well. The USA will be bigger and better than ever before," adding, in capital letters, "This is a great time to buy." So when we have other countries looking at the U.S. maneuvers and deciding retaliation or negotiation, how does that stance from President Trump affect the calculus?
Well, I think that, in part that is, we pass over the fact that President Trump is playing to his, rather worried political base here. I think that the EU is hoping that if you keep retaliation under control, at some point the talks will start. At some point, President Trump will be forced to make some deals. The EU will be one of the most obvious deals that he has to make after, for example, Japan, and that at that point, if you haven't gone too far, there will be not so much to unwind, not so much damage will have been done. And some of these tariffs that the EU is talking about won't come into force until December on soybeans. So they're giving, a forecast of what will come. So, I think the EU is playing a longer game here and thinking that at some point there will be, talks, there will be a deal.
But at that point, will the U.S., in your eyes, be a credible negotiating partner?
Well, right now, the U.S. isn't a credible negotiating partner. As far as the EU is concerned, they wouldn't know who to talk to within the administration, who actually has the ear of the president. The trade policy in Brussels is run as a pretty tight ship. It's run pretty firmly. They know what they're doing. They have a playbook that they use. You're looking over at D.C. The EU is used to working in D.C., but it looks over now and it says, who do we even call? Who do we have this conversation with? At this stage, it's totally unclear to them. So, in part, there's also this idea, look, we're going to have to look elsewhere because we can't rely on the US. We just don't know what's going on there. And, there's some resignation here. I think that, the world is changing. We're going to have to update our playbook, but it's taking time for them to work through and they don't want to